Hey guys, this is Daniel with PwnCNC, and I am here to install my dust boot onto the Onefinity. This is my my machinist. Obviously, this will work with woodworkers as well. Basically, because the carriage is exactly the same, it just depends on the width and the depth of your machine. Of course, mine's the smaller size, the machinist size, but it'll work perfectly fine. So, in your kit, which is actually cheaper than most kits because you've already got the tracks. So saved some money there, right? So, oh, and Onefinity green is on the way. Be patient with me. Very soon, by the time you see this video, you may actually already have this available on the site. So I'm going to install my version 3. This is my version 3. The key is any Onefinity boot, any boot that fits the Onefinity will have 4 heat inserts on the side. Irrelevant to you guys, basically just put your boot on there. I'll show you how to adjust those wings here in a minute. So the first thing you're going to do is obviously install or assemble the universal support arms. That's what you have here. Obviously I put the screw here right through the ankle of the leg, I'm starting to call them now, with a M5 locking nut on the back. Once you have that in place, you're going to take a thumb screw, and of course you have a nut plate here. You've also got in your kit an M4 nut. This is basically a spacer nut. So what you're going to want to do is just kind of thread that all the way on. It's not going to have any purpose except for providing a spacer. And the reason is these arms are made, universal, therefore they're made for other machines. And of course, we need because the Onefinities have got the whatever this is called. It's really tight. There's a really tight small connection in there. So whenever my nut plates go into position, there needs to be a little spacer in between to try to pull the nut a little further out. Basically, I'm a small shop and I don't want to make a whole bunch of custom thumb screws when I could just make 1,000 of the same type and just add a little spacer. But it still looks beautiful, and make sure you use a wrench of some sort. Just kind of tighten it in there. We don't want that nut to be unscrewing whenever we're unscrewing it from the nut plate. But the next step, of course, we've got a nut plate here. This is the T-nut. This is my version of it. New versions will be shorter, more similar to the Sucket version, a little taller, and of course mine's a little shorter and a little thicker, so it provides a little more threading. So yep, just take the nut plate, drop it right there in the back, slides right up and down the track here. Just leave it into position. Take the right arm, that's the one with the track on the inside. Take the thumb screw with the spacer in it, drop it right in there, hold it from the back side, and thread in the screw. Now there's tons of threading in there. That's on purpose. I know it takes a little while to screw it in, but that's on purpose. It gives you much stronger, lots of experience as far as, just trust me, that's a good thing. Take your other thumb screw and your other track. The tracks should be on the inside towards the center point of the carriage. Drop the nut plate on the back there. Drop the thumb screw in and take the long, arduous journey to screw that in. Now that we've got it all screwed in, we're ready to put our boot on. So I'm assuming you've already followed the boot assembly instructions. When installing this, the wings, once you've got the wings on there, and actually let me grab, there it is. There it is. Okay, so this is a 2.5 millimeter hex wrench. I'm going to unscrew this just so we can see which heat inserts I plugged it into. There are 4 heat inserts on either side of the boot. And looks like I plugged it into the center 2. So the 4 allow the wing to have a beautiful 42 millimeters range of motion. That allows us to adapt the same boot design to multiple CNC/configs. Really need to find a good name for that. It looks like I've dropped the one of the socket screws. There we go. Plug that in. Plug it into the, so screw in the wings, but kind of keep them loose. Allow the wing to itself to move frontwards or backwards just a tiny bit, sort of like that. And the idea is we want to find a good position where the center line of the boot, that's right here in the middle, is the center line of your router. Now, of course, I've got a Makita 65 millimeter diameter. I believe this is the most common. I don't think this comes in any other size. This is the router mount itself. So once you've got that in there, it should be, I believe, if I look at the other side, which I'm kind of cheating here, I already know, you'll notice that the little bit of the heat insert, that last heat insert there is kind of showing. So I'm going to kind of position it right there. And you can do the same as a good starting point. But again, you're going to want to measure this out. So once you've got that in, you can slide the boot on. Once the magnets catch on either side, got strong N52 magnets, so they should be really nice. Once that's in there, you can go ahead and raise the boot up. And that will allow you to, if your machine's on, it's super easy. If it's off like mine, it's a little more difficult. But I already know where the center line is. But lower your router down where it's inside of the boot. So if you're using V3 like I am here, you're going to look at the outer diameter and try to center that on the diameter of the acrylic that I've got on the boot itself. If you're using version 2, you're going to want to center that right there on the chuck. So lower the chuck down, and the circle of the acrylic is going to be a little smaller on the version 2, and it's also going to be a little lower. So it's easier to center the acrylic and the boot on the chuck rather than the actual body of the router. So once you've got it centered, just make sure you tighten up these things really good and check it on a regular basis. You don't want those things loosening up on you and adjusting, because it could damage the acrylic or damage the boot. And make sure you check these screws here on top that are holding the acrylic. And of course, it's ready to go. Now, if you saw from my assembly video on my arms here, and I'll just demo it right here in this video. There we go. Your arms will come with a couple of M3 by 10 millimeter screws, and you can either put them in the front or the back of, or even leave them out like I do, of the support arm of this track. And what that is that screw acts as a stopper. So if you have a rear mounted boot, you're going to want to put those screws right here in the front. And what happens is when the boot slides into the track, it will get stopped by that screw right there in the front. Of course, again, I don't use them at all personally, and the magnets are really strong, so they catch really well and allow me to drop the locking pin right down in between the wing. It locks the wing into the arms, basically. So you could certainly do the same, and it works really well. If you have any questions or comments, I would be very interested to hear about them. You can chat or reach out to me on info@PwnCNC.com, or leave a notes or comments in the description of this video, and I'll be glad to help you out. So yeah, this is Daniel with PwnCNC, and remember, don't just own your CNC, dominate it.